We begin today with Fred Thompson and the spanking he took in today's Washington Post by two of America's most famed conservative columnists. Will Republican primary voters share the dim view of Thompson's candidacy? Well, joining us now with his analysis of the Thompson campaign so far is Republican consultant Roger Stone. Roger, thanks for coming on.
Tucker, great to be here.
To put this in some context, here's what you said in a column in April, and I believe you came on this show to explain it in further detail. But here's part of your view of Fred Thompson this spring. The president Americans want is, in fact, the guy they see on Law and Order. Wise, thoughtful, deliberative, confident, without the cockiness of Bush, urbane yet country. Thompson would use his prosecutor image to make the resurgence of al-Qaeda the #1 issue in his campaign. A pledge to find and crush the terrorist network will provide Thompson flexibility on his future support for the Iraq War after the failure of the surge. You had high hopes for Fred Thompson, and you thought terror was going to be the defining issue in his campaign. How do you feel now that you've seen the campaign?
Well, sadly, the campaign doesn't seem to have any defining issue. I must say I'm very disappointed. I did have high hopes for Fred Thompson, but I think both conservative columnists in the Washington Post today made excellent points. First of all, he has not put together a campaign capable of winning the White House. To turn away experienced Republican operatives with years of presidential experience like Scott Reed or Jeffrey Bell and put your campaign in the hands of Mary Matalin, who failed to get the only Republican in 75 years, the only Republican president reelected in perhaps the worst campaign of all time, the Bush 92 campaign, and then further drive the current vice president's approval ratings into the teens, has convinced me they don't have a team that knows how to elect Fred Thompson.
But wait a second, and I'm not just saying this because I like Mary Matalin, and I do very much. But I also think
she was a bridesmaid in my wedding. She's a friend of mine, but I think she's done her candidate a disservice here.
But in the end, it's the candidate himself who wins or loses. And this is from George Will's column today, and I thought it was devastating. So Thompson goes on Sean Hannity's show, and Hannity doesn't ask any vicious questions or anything. He basically says, what sets you apart from the other candidates? Here's Thompson's reply, quote, to tell you the truth, I haven't spent a whole lot of time going into the details of their positions. What the hell is that?
Precisely the point. But who in the campaign has said, Senator, you need to have a compelling message that makes you different than these other candidates? He's the candidate. I frankly think George Will's column was more devastating. He not only doesn't know his own record, he's now trying to obfuscate his own record as to why he supported McCain-Feingold. This is a grave disappointment. Unfortunately, Fred Thompson appears to me to be all potential, and that potential is not being realized.
Here, but what is the potential? I mean, what is the rationale? It seems to me every campaign is driven by a central idea, or every winning campaign is anyway. The losing ones aren't. General Wesley Clark, you never figured out why he was running. If you were to sum up in one sentence why Fred Thompson wants to be president, what would it be?
You can't do so. You can do so for Rudy Giuliani, who I think has defined extremely well why he ought to be the nominee and why he ought to be the next leader of the free world. You want him on that wall, as Matt Bai said last weekend, in the fight against terrorism. We need him on that wall in the fight against terrorism. Fred Thompson has no such compelling message, and no one around him who seems to understand that he needs one.
Well, there's a feeling that the conservatives in the party, and particularly the religious conservatives, the evangelicals, who are still a big force in the Republican Party, don't have a natural candidate. They don't trust Mitt Romney. They don't like Rudy Giuliani. Fred Thompson's their guy. In Will's column, you have Thompson admitting he doesn't go to church. Is he the guy? I mean, is he a natural evangelical candidate?
No, I don't think he is. I think that his skills as a communicator are enormously valuable, and I like him for that.
Yes.
But what is it he is communicating? First of all, in terms of his conservatism, he's a Howard Baker, Tennessee, Virginia, Mountain Valley Republican. It is conservative, but it's not Ronald Reagan conservatism. Secondarily, in his own lifestyle, and I'm not criticizing him, but he has not been a leader on evangelical issues. I think a message aimed at the resurgence of al-Qaeda and the need to crush them would have been a more compelling message than the non-message in his current campaign.
And finally, a mechanical question. Can he raise the dough? I mean, how much would he have to raise to be competitive with Mitt Romney and Rudy Giuliani?
I think it'll be extremely difficult. Now, he could spend the money he does raise more wisely, but in order to do that, he would need somebody who has experience in running a successful presidential campaign on his team. I don't see that person. And a budgeting mistake, as Bob Dole learned in 1988, it can be crucial. Meting out those limited resources to get to the super September 5th primary is very difficult. It'll take somebody who knows what they're doing. The candidate's not supposed to be the campaign manager. When the candidate's the campaign manager, Tucker, he usually loses. Richard Nixon in 1960. He's an able guy. He's a fine communicator. He has no message that I can see. He doesn't seem to have the money or the ability to raise the money, and he doesn't seem to have anybody around him who knows that he needs those things. It's a grave disappointment.
It's all very depressing. I mean, they're going to wind up with Mitt Romney as the nominee if someone knows an inner
Rudy Giuliani, I think.
Roger Stone, thanks a lot, Roger. Good to see you.
Glad to be with you.